So now let's get on to tips now. There's one tip I want to show you which will require Chie to die for a second. Now, Yukiko excels at being the last character, and I'll show you why. Let me make him block. So say like you could go up to level 9. Now although you can't really by playing with your teammate you can't really do much with jump C. But in this situation now, since your opponent is done like you did, you can use your meter however you like. So what I'm trying to say is that Yukiko can be extremely dangerous when she uses her 5A strings. Remember when I told you that your opponent would either have to guess if your opponent do not if your opponent. Oops, I didn't do that. If your opponent, I guess you do an overhead or a low. Let me show you what Yukiko can do by giving that option. Oops. Almost instantly do a lot of damage onto your opponent, and if your opponent gets hit by the low, then they will have to deal with that damage as well. So this makes Yukiko extremely dangerous when she gets her resonance, and if she gets her follow up to level 9. Okay. One other thing I want to note about is when other benefits of Yukiko getting her fire level up high. Give me a second. Is she gains meter quickly when her fire level up is high. So take a look at the bottom left corner of how much bar she gets from just doing Ma'agi from level 0. Now let's get her up to level 9 for example, and look at the bottom left corner of the bar and see how much bar she gets from just doing Ma'agi with level 9. She gets almost half of her bar just by doing that. So that's a really good tip to keep in mind. I mean, to keep a note on that. As you can see there, she almost fills her bar by doing that. Now, when you get her fire level to 9, she gains 1 meter by doing that. So that's one other tip for to keep in mind for Yukiko. And when you play Yukiko, you have to become familiarized by doing this as well. That's what I'm trying to do. You want to try to do that a lot. It's kind of tough because you have to do it like really fast while throwing her fans up as soon as you jump in the air. You want to learn how to do that as well because it's pretty good to keep away for your opponent. And say like if you're at this range, you want to be able to do this too. so you can get a far distance from your opponent and also zoning your opponent as well. You want to try to learn how to do that as well. As soon as you jump up, you do 5B, then do a backdash and throw another 5B. That's how you do it. What else you could be beneficial of doing? I have another tip that I couldn't show you on training mode because it was pretty difficult to do. So instead of doing it on training mode, I decided to get an actual match. There is a cool way of how to deal with the anti-air, and it's specifically with this. When you throw your fan up in the air, you do the A version of Ma'agi. Your opponent would either block it like Yang did, or the opponent will not block it and the opponent will get punished heavily by doing that, which Akatsuki just did right now. This is pretty useful in my opinion, and you can do it from any range. You could either do it far range or close range, but for close range I rather you do 5 anti-air and 5A string instead of doing the Ma'agi. Oh, there's one. That move right there. I forgot to mention, you can do this from a far distance too, and also a good note to keep in mind. Oops, wait. Hold on. Okay. Now let me show you. As you can see, your eyes did not deceive you. As you do the X version of her fire level, Yukiko can absorb projectiles by doing that as well. I love it a lot. It's so good. And for proof of how good this is, take a look at this matchup between Yukiko and Yumi. As you all know, Yumi is a zoner, and as you can see here, when Yumi throws her icicle spirits at me, Yukiko is able to absorb it by increasing her fire level by using the X version. And the more that I kept doing it, the more Yumi, this player, had to realize he had to change his playstyle. As you can see here, now he stopped throwing his icicle at me and he's becoming more aggressive towards me. So this is just a proof of how good this is. Another tip that I got, and I think this will be my last tip for how to play Yukiko, is being careful by using her 5A. Most opponents nowadays do not want to guess mix-ups. You don't want to guess if you're doing an overhead or you're doing a low. So 9 out of 10 characters will do a random super. For example, this. You want to be careful of doing that recklessly, because Yukiko can suffer a great amount of damage, and if your opponent's feeling really sadistic, they will try to finish you off as fast as possible and do something like do another super, including like do Adachi super, then do Narukami super, if they're feeling really sadistic and want to finish you off as fast as possible. So to avoid that, you want to do, no, not that. Try to bait it. you want to try and bait it. Now, there's something I want to show you real quick, so let me switch off those two real quick. And there's gonna be another tip as well. So say like Ragnar does his rain super. Oops, I didn't think that was in. But you want to learn how to do 4A into Ma'agion and try to do that string by doing 4A, AA, then Ma'agi again. You want to learn how to do that because Yukiko can do a lot of damage by doing that, especially when you get a 5 level to level 6, for example. Like that. She does a lot of damage. Sometimes you can confuse a character thinking you'll do a jump C by jumping up. So that's something to keep in mind by doing that. Now characters like Jin, on the other hand, when he does his random super like this, you can't punish it, because Jin's super pushes you really far away. So instead, you can do something like this. You can do something like that. And since his super is a projectile, she will absorb it by using her X version of Fire Flames, which is really good. That's the one that I showed you of, like a sneak peek of it. Yeah. Like I said, you want to learn how to do this string. You want to learn how to do that string. I guess I could give you one. I'll give you some, like, 2 more tips. This one will require me to switch off characters though. And let's see, I go Xian, bring Xian.
Get ready.
There are times, like against Batista, when Batista just throw out her random super. You can't punish it from that far. I mean, you can, but it will require a lot of 3 meters to punish. There's a more effective way to punish Batista by when she does a random super like that. So. So like that, it's more effective to do it that way, in my honest opinion, instead of just waiting it out. Now there are times Batista will throw out a random super, and there are times Batista players will just throw out a random super and tag out another character who has a fast a fast distortion skill. So let me give you an example. So if a Batista player does want to do that, you can just do that. You can punish Vichie by doing that. And another thing that's pretty good to note is... Oops, hold on. No. You can participate if your opponent was switched by looking at the top right corner that the character was switched or not. So that's a good note to keep in mind. Although you will suffer damage too, but you will also dealt damage towards your second character and Batista as well. Batista as well. One tip is basically the same. I was going to say another tip as well, but they're basically the same. Is what to do when at that option. You can either do jump 5B, or like I said, jump C, or continue to stream, or slowly back away. You slowly back away. Or you can do that, which is good because sometimes your opponent will never catch on to that. And you can do a combo. So like that. That's something to keep in mind of. That's something you can keep in mind of. Do you want to do you want to try to get away from your opponent? Or do you want to rush down? That's one of the beauty of playing Yukiko. She's very versatile. She can be aggressive by being a rush down, or she can be aggressive by being a zoner. That takes care of the tips that I have of playing Yukiko. So let's go over her basic combos everyone should know. So like I said, if your character is like pressuring with their footsies, you want to do 2A, 5A, A. So you can put your opponent from a far distance and continue with your zoning. Another combo you can do is if you're able to get a Maragi from a combo, you can do that. If you want to try to get your fire level up, you can do that. Ooh, another tip that I forgot to tell you guys. So sorry, there's another tip I forgot to mention. As a Yukiko player, you want to keep an eye up on her health. Since Yukiko's health is really low, you really need to keep in mind on that. So say like you get a combo. You can try to get her fire level up if you want to take that risk, and if you want to recover health. You can do that way by pushing your opponent back and recovering your health at the same time. And you can hold it out a little bit longer if you can hold that out a little bit longer too. So like, no. So like that. That's something that you really need to keep that in mind. You need to keep an eye on Yukiko's health because her health is not that good. She doesn't have a lot of health. Hold on. Like that. You want to do that? What else? There is a specific time I want to keep in mind of doing this. There's a specific time you would have to do it. So I forgot to record myself explaining how to do this, but take a look at when I do jump C and do her X version of Agi. As soon as she flies back, you want to let go of the Agi and then quickly do the notations of doing Agi-dyne, and you will always get a hit confirm after doing this. Okay, I know I've skipped a bit, but now we're gonna go over who who is the best partner for Yukiko. The best partner for Yukiko through my experience would be Susanoo, Ruby, Batista, and Adachi. Now we're gonna do Susanoo and Ruby first because both of their functions as Yukiko partner is similar. Let's start with Susanoo's 4P. Susanoo's 4P is so good because of the hitbox of 4P. It's ridiculously big and huge. I think Susanoo's 4P is the best 4P in the game. It used to be Ruby before Susanoo came in, but now ever since Susanoo came in, he has the best 4P now, which is really good for Yukiko since her anti-air game is not that good. So you want a good 4P assist for Yukiko. Also, he has a really good 5P assist. It's really fast. So you could do something like this. You could do something like that with Susanoo. And another thing that's another good assist that Susanoo has is his 6P. It's so fast. It has a really fast projectile, so you can do something like this, for example. You could do that, or if you're feeling sadistic, you can do that. You can do that for more damage, and it's the same for Ruby, which I'll show you real quick. Ruby also has a really good 4P. It's the second best 4P in the game. Ruby also have really good 5P assists, which I'll show you what you can do with it in a minute. So she could do something like that. And also, you could, her 6P is also pretty good too. It's really fast, just like Susanoo, so you could do something like this. How did that whiff? You can do something like that. So yes, that's what helped Yukiko out a lot with Ruby and Susanoo. So now let's move over to Batista now. Now Batista can help out Yukiko a lot in actuality. Her 4P is really good. I forgot to show you what the combo you should do after you get a hit from your partner's 4P. So let me show you real quick. You could do that, or you could finish it off with the DP, or you could finish them off with a super. Something like this. So that's really useful for Yukiko. Another thing that's useful for Yukiko is Batista's 5P assist. So you could do something like this. And you could quickly get up to fire level 8 real fast with that. And another thing that's useful is that she could get a conversion off when doing her jump scene or the third string of her 5A. So let me show you right now. You only get to level 6. You can't get up to level 8 by wasting a bar by doing that, but you can get up. Level 6 is still good in my opinion. Now, to get a combo off from the third hit of 5A. And you get to level 8 quickly by doing that as well. Batista's 6P is okay. I really use it, to be honest, because Yukiko has a good projectile that can help her out. If anything, I would mostly use Batista's 4P and use Batista's 5P. So next is Adachi now. Interesting thing about Adachi is Adachi's 4P is pretty good. That's pretty good hitbox of Adachi's 4P. Another thing is Adachi's 5P assist, which is pretty good as well. So you could do something like this. So you could do something like that. Also, Adachi's 6P is pretty good as well. Although, not as best as Susanoo and Ruby, because she has to use Maragion to get a follow up with the 6P. So you could do something like this. He would have to use a meter to get another follow-up with it, unfortunately. But it's still good either or. And if you have enough meter, you could finish it off with Agidine. Or if you have 5 meters, you could just finish it off by doing Agidine and do Adachi's super as well. Another good tip for Yukiko is Adachi can help Yukiko get her fire level up really quickly. So if you get a combo from Adachi, you can do something like this. Oops, wrong one. You can get level 9 really quickly as with Adachi's help, which is, I find it ridiculous. So once again, yes, those two work really well together. Now that I cover up the characters that Yukiko works extremely good with, let me go over characters who work good with but not the best partner with Yukiko. We're gonna go with Rachel. Alright, now the thing about Yukiko and Rachel working together, Rachel helps excuse me. Rachel helps Yukiko out with her zoning, so you could do 6P and you could throw her fans, for example. It keeps their opponent grounded by Rachel's 6P and Yukiko's fans. And you can also throw 6P and do something cheeky by increasing our fire level. Or you could do 6P and then use small Agidine just to get closer towards your opponent. Or you could tag out Yukiko and bring Rachel in. And then call out her Battle of Lotus and try to get closer to her opponent and do her ridiculous rush down. Another thing that I like about Rachel's assist is after throwing Rachel's 6P assist, you can call it Rachel's 4P assist, and it'll do her lightning rod, strike the lightning rod towards the little poles that she has, which helps out Yukiko's zoning as well. You could do what I just did with when I was explaining what you could do when when Rachel throws her 6P assist, do her fans, do cheeky increase the fire level, or use Maragi. Now the reason why those two don't really work like as perfect as the other four that I just explained is because Rachel and Yukiko heavily rely on their meters, and without their meters, Rachel can't do that much. I mean, she can, but she's more effective if she has more meters because she can do like ridiculous things by like calling George, then do Battle of Lotus, then using Tensis Dolia, and then try to get closer. So like that. And if you're too lazy to set up her Tiny Lavelia or something like that, that's how you pronounce it? Oh, Tiny Labelia. If you don't want to like take some time to set up her Tiny Labelia, you could do, you know, the X version of Tiny Labelia, which helps reach out as well. That's why it's not that good of an idea to pair up Yukiko and Rachel that much, because both of them heavily rely on meter. So that's why. Okay, next we're moving on to Elizabeth.
Get ready. Get ready.
And now we're with Hilda right now. Um, this is the same reason why Yukiko and Hilda is not as perfect team as I talk about the other four earlier. It's because both of them heavily rely on meter. Although Yukiko help out Hilda so much because of the combo potential that Hilda can do with Yukiko's help. So like this, for example. Like that, for example. But although Yukiko, although those two have to use meter to, you know, to be more effective in this match, Hilda can actually help Yukiko get her fire up quickly. Like this, for example. So you can do something like that, which helps whenever you do Hilda's Fallen Pain. You can mix it up by doing this. Or Hilda has a lot of mix-up potential that I will cover over Hilda soon. So although Yukiko helps out Hilda a lot, and Hilda helps out Yukiko a little bit. So like her 4P, it's slow, but it covers up a really good portion of the screen. So like as soon as this comes out, you can just quickly do her Increase of Fire level. And her 5P is pretty good too, so you can do something like this. You can do that. There's other options you can go over with that, but I'll just show you this for now. Yeah. Those two have good symmetries, but not the best team. Also, another thing that helps Yukiko and Elizabeth a lot is Elizabeth 5B pressure. So let me just show you guys. You could do it like that by increasing our fire level, or you could do a combo like that. Her Elizabeth 4P is okay. It's not the best, but it's better than nothing. That's only the downside of this. That's one of the downsides of this team is Elizabeth 4P is not that best. Elizabeth's Myozyndon is pretty good though. So say like if you get your opponent from afar like this, you can do it quickly, blow that out. Not saying that will work, but it has its uses. Like for example, you could, if your opponent doesn't block on the market for some odd reason, you could do that combo, or you could do something like this. You could do something like that. I will continue. I will do the combo, but you guys get the gist. So this team does work pretty well. It's the same as Rachel, but it's just has some flaws there and there.